All right, welcome back. In this lesson, we're going to start our focus, our closer look onto what's happening on the picking hand side. The thumb plays a very active role in fingerstyle, and as you know, if you've seen any sort of the Chet Atkins, Jerry Reed, Merle Travis, there's a very consistent bass note hopping pattern that's happening while the other fingers are doing something else. And the name independent thumb is what you'll hear quite a bit, developing an independent thumb and what that means. I think at first, when I heard that at least, it was very confusing to me because I started doing a lot of work and exercises on just doing the thumb on its own, and then doing the other fingers on their own, thinking that at some point they'll just sort of meld and mesh together and then the pattern will work, and it just doesn't work that way. So independent thumb, it's sort of like a thumb that's playing on the same team. The thumb has more places to be now, but don't think about it as independent in terms of doing something on its own. It's always accenting different parts of the beat that the other fingers are doing. So one way to look at this before we dive in, if you see the tab, the thumb will always be those lowest notes that are hopping back and forth. And then the fingers are going to be the other ones. Don't think about reading the tab horizontally, meaning all the thumb patterns are here, all of the other finger patterns are here, so practice one line and then the next line. Think about breaking these patterns down to develop the sort of independent lines that are happening with the thumb, even though they're working together. Think about going through the tab vertically. So the thumb is going to arrive at my A string at the exact time that maybe the ring is grabbing, or maybe the middle is going to be grabbing one of the high B strings. It may seem like it takes a little bit longer at first to get the pattern, but think about lining up each musical event vertically in the tab as it happens. And that actually is the fastest way to get a good rockin' thumb in all of these patterns. So the first thing we want to do when thinking about this, developing this active thumb pattern, is actually thinking about what are the moves that it's going to make and lining that up with the others. We're going to start with an A minor on the left hand here, okay? And we have to do a pull off here. So you're going to do your thumb here on the low A, and you're going to do the middle at the same time. You're going to pinch them together. One thing to keep in mind as we do this, anytime you have two notes played together, or sometimes you'll have a bunch of notes played together when you do a pinch, what you want to make sure you don't do is pop off the strings. It's sort of like you're closing your hand in. That's what you want, as opposed to popping off the strings. The farther you travel away, like the pop, the longer it's going to take to get back in shape, and you're just wasting energy and you're going to be behind the beat. So you want to make sure that you pinch those two, the thumb in the middle, okay, just like this. And then what I'm going to do is actually, this first finger, I'm going to pull that off. Again, if your thumb is up here, well, like we talked about in the previous few lessons, with the thumb actively up here, that could actually force some of this part of your hand to actually mute the, or if it's too far, it can either be this part or maybe the third. So just make sure you remember that left hand, your fretting hand thumb, making sure that that stays back. So in measure one there we have, so I'm doing the thumb on the A, and then it hops up to the D string. And then my index is actually going to grab this right here, which is going to be the second fret on this side, second fret with your third finger, but you're going to pick that with your index. So that pattern sounds like this. Okay? And then the thumb goes down to the low E, your ring finger goes all the way up to the high E, and then you go back to where you, the second thumb note that you had there. So it feels like it's scattered all over the place. But again, playing it slow and getting the pattern of all of the fingers working together is going to be the fastest way to get this. So that would sound like this very slow. So you can see the thumb is hopping on like the A string, then up to the D, then down to the low E, then up to the D. but we're learning it all together as one pattern. So let's look at the second measure. And in the second measure, you're actually going to go to this chord here, which is, you're basically going to do your third finger instead of using 2, 1, 3. This is a common way of playing this pattern. But here, what you want to do for this chord, use your third finger on the 3rd fret of the A. Use your second finger on the 2nd fret of the D. And then your 4th finger is going to go all the way up to the B string here. Okay? And we're going to do the same thing where we pinch the thumb and the middle here. Okay? And you're going to pull that pinky off to get to the open B. Okay? And what you'll notice now is that when our thumb travels to grab the low E, we're actually going to have to shift to the 3rd finger on your fretting hand to grab a low G. So it stays on the same fret at least, but you do have to travel to go down to the next lower string. And so that pattern sounds like this. Okay? And what you can do is you can, if you want to, use your middle for that high E. All of the fingerings in there, if you want to change something that feels a little bit more comfortable, feel free to do that. Okay, then to measure 3, we go back to the A minor. So you see, start slow and then build up momentum with each of these once you get the pattern. Then we do the same thing here, but we're going to add one more note. Okay, and what's different about this is that instead of, after we pull this off here, then you're actually just going to do the all the way up here, use your pinky on the 3rd fret there, so it sounds like this. Okay, and all I'm doing there is I have extra thumb and index as the last few ones, so that sounds again like this. Okay, so now we're going to keep this pattern going. We have the thumb kind of hopping, but we're going to go to a different spot on the fretboard here. We're going to start with a D minor. So put your 1st finger on the 5th fret of the A. Put your 3rd finger, this is going to go on the 7th fret of the D, and then G on the 7th fret with your pinky. And then put your 2nd finger on the 6th fret of the B, and that sounds like this. Okay? But now we're going to put this pattern back in where we went. Okay? And again, thinking about it as an independent thumb can be tricky, but always put it in context to what's happening with the whole surrounding pattern. So we're going to do thumb and middle for those first two, the 5 and 6, right here in measure 5. Then thumb's going to go up to here, then index, and now the thumb has to travel down to the low E, and when it goes down, your first finger also goes down. And then we have the ring finger here, and then thumb index on the last D and G. So that sounds like this. Okay? And then we keep the same exact pattern going here, but we're going to change the chord just a little bit. This chord, you basically are going to keep your 1st and your 2nd in the same spot where they were, but we switch the 4th now is going to go up to the 10th fret. Your 3rd finger is going to go to the 9th fret, and it sounds like this. Okay? You'll notice that we are, because of just the nature of this chord, we are going to be able to use that low E, so you don't have to actually shift. When you do the thumb on the low E string, you don't have to shift a fretting hand, but we will in the next chord, so you're not off the hook yet. So what we want to do for this one is go slowly, so middle, your 1st and middle here, and thumb and middle here, and then ring, thumb, index, then low E with the thumb, ring, okay, and now we're back to this chord here, which is, you're basically taking, it's a sort of a version of this chord down here, but your 1st finger goes on the 8th fret, your 3rd finger is going to go on the 10th fret, then you have an open G, and then take your pinky and put that on the 10th fret, and you get this sound. And when we do this chord, we actually have an open G here and an open E, and your 1st finger is going to travel down. It's going to stay in the same fret, but you go down to the low E there. And so the pattern sounds like this, which will be identical on this hand. again. Okay, now move the same exact chord up 2 frets. That's it, right there. And this sort of serves as the turnaround to get back to the beginning again. And so we're going to change the pattern slightly, and all we're going to do is not go down to the low E string. And then all you do is put this finger up here. What you can do is actually go up with your first finger, or you could just put your second finger down. But with taking the same pattern with your 10th on your first, and then your 3rd and 4th are going to be on the 12th frets on the G and B. And so you can, again, go up to the 11th fret, or you can do the second finger here. And then from there, you're back to the A minor again. All right, so now we've looked into some of the detail and the mechanics or what's happening in this exercise. But just keep in mind that if you're having a difficult time feeling like separating or just recognizing what's happening between the thumb, the index, middle, and ring, you can always play this slowly. The most important thing with gaining this sort of, I guess it's independence in conjunction with the other fingers, is actually playing these patterns slowly and making sure that you feel like you're thoroughly understanding it before you try jumping in with all of it at first. So let's hop into this now. We're going to do this at 92 beats per minute in 4/4 time. 1, 2, ready, go. All right, excellent work on that. Take time to go through that, and it's just a fun exercise to just go on repeat and just kind of get lost in it. In the next exercise, we're going to look at what's happening with the thumb here, but now introducing what we talked about at the beginning of the course with some of the bass notes that you're grabbing with the thumb on the other side. So now we're going to put both thumbs together in the next one. So stick around, and I will see you there. Bye.